Now, yesterday we learned that Simon Kinberg, who worked on Rebels with Dave Filoni, as well as worked on many films over the years, including most of the X-Men movies, we learned that he will be writing and producing, though not directing, a new Star Wars trilogy, which is news that came to us from Deadline. This was not an official Lucasfilm announcement or anything like that, though one would think Deadline, would have a pretty credible source if they're willing to run with the story. Plus, we haven't heard anyone from Disney or Lucasfilm, or Kinberg himself, refute this, so it seems like it's legit so far. And though I already talked about this quite a bit over on my other channel, where I mainly cover the news, I just wanted to make a quick video here that talked a little more about this because, sadly, my first response when hearing this news was probably the same as a lot of other fans out there, or that maybe you yourself had, that being, I'll believe it when I see it, or I'll believe there's going to be another Star Wars trilogy when I'm actually sitting there in the theater watching it, considering just how many projects Lucasfilm has announced over the last, 5 years or so, since the sequel trilogy wrapped up in December of 2019. In fact, there's been about a dozen such film announcements, and no, that's not an exaggeration, and thus far there's really nothing to show for any of them, though it does seem like, considering it's either done filming or really close to done filming, and we have even seen a sneak peek at it, which came from D23 this year, but it does seem like the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is indeed real and will come out, that the streak of no Star Wars movies will come to an end after 6.5 years, assuming it does hit that May of 2026 release date currently set for it. Anyway, at this point we know very, very little about this supposed new trilogy. Some insiders are saying it will be episodes 10, 11, and 12, though may or may not have connections to the Skywalker saga, while others are saying it'll have nothing to do with any of that, that it will not be an episodic trilogy, and instead will be completely its own thing, most likely set in the post-sequel trilogy era, though how far after it is unknown. And though it is just a guess here, I would say there's a good chance, assuming it gets made, which we'll have to see, but I could see the Rey New Jedi Order movie being a sort of a segue into this new trilogy, that if the rumors are true about that movie, about the Rey movie having her in a more of a mentor role, like a Yoda role, I believe they said, and instead featuring 2 new students she's training, that the Kinberg trilogy would be about them, about her students, perhaps several years down the road, with one probably going dark side and the other going light, though I really, really hope it's something a bit more creative than that, again assuming any of this gets made, that maybe some kind of new threat arises to be the main villain or villains of this new trilogy that Kinberg might do someday. Because we've also heard that he is not starting this anytime soon, that he has a few other projects ahead of it, which is something we've heard from a lot of people who get hired to do Star Wars movies. Either way, I could also see, as I have predicted before, that this could all tie into the Dawn of the Jedi film from James Mangold, assuming that, that one gets made too. And he recently insisted it is still happening and he is going to be starting on it very soon, apparently. But I could see it where we learn something about the Force and or First Jedi in that film, something they discovered about it, or some certain way they were, some certain use of the Force they had, which has been lost over the ages, which Rey will then learn about while reading the sacred Jedi texts she has, the ones we see her take in The Last Jedi, and even see her use a bit in The Rise of Skywalker, and then she will pass that knowledge on to her students, and maybe something goes wrong because of that knowledge. Maybe there was a really good reason why the Jedi stopped doing things that certain way, or why they buried that information, who knows. But there could be connections between the films. In fact, I think it makes sense to do that instead of just having them all simply be standalone things. I think it just makes sense to connect them and to build to something much, much bigger in the long run. However, that would obviously require a plan, and not just a plan, but to actually carry one out, which has been a real problem at Lucasfilm for a while now, or pretty much the whole time under the leadership of Kennedy. Even the sequel trilogy, as we have discussed many times before on this channel, it showed a complete lack of planning, where it feels like the two main writers and directors, those being J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, were more about trying to do their own thing or to undo what the other had done before them, rather than cooperate or create any sort of cohesive story with a cohesive vision. Which is why, after those previous failures, you could argue, it is maybe a little surprising to hear that in this report, or in the article from Deadline, that Kinberg would be producing those films alongside Kathleen Kennedy, implying she is going to be at Lucasfilm for quite a while yet, especially if she oversees the whole trilogy, which would almost certainly take the better part of a decade to complete, and would obviously mean her contract has been renewed again, a contract that was set to expire last month, or in October. Though, quite honestly, like I was saying before, who knows if any of this actually is going to happen. I mean, I'm 99% sure we're going to get that Mandalorian and Grogu movie in just under 2 years. Again, it's about done filming, if not done filming by now, so something would have to go disastrously wrong with it to be cancelled. But beyond that, I just don't believe anything we hear anymore. Lucasfilm announcing projects that never happen is the norm at this point. Again, I wasn't exaggerating when I said there's been nearly a dozen of them over the last several years now. But who knows? Maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe, like I said, they have an actual plan this time and can figure out a way to carry it out. Or maybe it's just another project announced that will never come to fruition. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you think. Do you think this trilogy will actually get made? Could there be a bigger plan in the works? Or do you think in the long run nothing comes of any of this and it is just another failed attempt to make some Star Wars movies? Whatever you think, leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.